Hello and welcome to the ETH Game Programming Lab 2021 final presentations. We are live, so a big hello to everyone watching. We're monitoring the live stream chat, so feel free to leave your comments and questions. We'll do our best to respond. We have 6 amazing teams that have created 6 amazing games. We're going to show you those tonight. But before we start, I just wanted to say, we all know it's been a difficult year. But one tiny ray of sunshine is that the game industry is actually doing really well. And that's partly because everyone's been stuck at home craving entertainment, but also because the game developers have been able to very quickly adapt to the work at home situation. And I'm very proud to say that our students have done the same. So despite these extraordinary situations, despite the remote teaching, they've done a fantastic job this semester at creating novel games from scratch. I'm really proud of them. And I wanted to just show you one way we've adapted the course based on the new situation. Typically in the first lecture, the very first lecture, we have a speed dating event where the students line up in 2 lines and rotate along the lines so they each have a chance to speak one-on-one to every other student. Now we couldn't do that, of course, during the pandemic, so we had to adapt. And I want to show you this video of an online tool called Topia that we used, which allowed us to simulate this kind of concept of speed dating in a virtual world. So the students could walk through this virtual world, sit on these cushions that we designed, and when they're kind of sitting together, paired next to one another, it creates a live video chat between the 2 people that are close to one another. They can chat for a few minutes before they rotate. So every 90 seconds or so, we would ring a bell in the virtual world, and the students would then move along the lines, following these arrows to the next position so they could speak to the next person. So it was somewhat chaotic in the virtual world, but it's also very chaotic in the real world. So that was authentic to the real world experience. So that's just one way we adapted things for the pandemic. But now I want to talk about the course. The Game Programming Lab, well, this is a capstone course. So the students take the course because they're very interested in creating a game, but actually it has a strong role to play in the ETH Computer Science department because it builds on the things we teach, all the ideas we teach in the Computer Science Bachelor's and Visual Computing Master's specialization. So the students take the course because they're excited about making a game, but in fact, they learn a lot because it's a core part of the education in computer science. We even published a paper that discusses the pedagogical underpinnings of the course more directly. So if you're curious, please take a look at this research publication. Now the course is structured into 3 main phases: design, development, and refinement. So design is where all the ideas happen, where the design of the game happens, where the students kind of map out what they want to build. And this is an example showing a sketch of the level that the team imagined in the very first weeks of the course. And here's an image showing the final version of that level in their finished game. During this portion, the students also create a physical version of their game using paper, cardboard, markers, glue. Here's an example where we see a physical version of a racing game that takes place on the Great Wall of China. And here's the final screenshot from their final game. And what's really special is that this physical version allows them to actually play their game and test all the dynamics and really do the first round of iteration to understand, does their game work? Is the gameplay fun? So that's really an important, critical part of the course. Now, the middle section of the semester is focused on development. This is where all the computer science happens, where the algorithms are written, the data structures, the programming, also the asset development, the modeling, animation. So this is the middle half of the course. It's very significant. A lot of work happens here. This is showing a screenshot of one game. This is their physical prototype and some of their artwork. And here's a screenshot of their final game. This was a water battle game that took place in ancient Greece. Now, the last portion of the course is focused on refinement. And here, the game is handed off to others to test and play and record formal feedback so that the teams can understand, does their game match the expectations they had? And they use that feedback to then improve the game in preparation for the final presentation, which is happening right now as we speak. Now, the course doesn't always end there, so often teams have even continued their game after the course is finished. These are some photos of one example where one of the games was featured at a festival in Zurich, and our Bundesrat Alain Berset is actually playing the game, so that's really an honor. So it's not necessarily, today is not necessarily the end, it really could be the beginning for many of the teams. Now, every semester we have a theme. So what this means is that the game design should really speak and answer to this theme. All of the elements of the game should somehow connect to the theme. And in fact, by placing these boundaries, it really helps encourage creativity, sparks new ideas. And I want to tell you, the theme for this year was Grimm's fairy tales. So this is connecting this modern idea of gameplay to these very classic, well-known stories. I'm really excited to see how the students interpret that. So that's my quick introduction. I'm gonna now join the students on the Zoom call so that we can say hello to the real heroes of the course. So let's move over to Zoom. So now we can give a big hello to the fantastic students, our real heroes for today. So let's all wave. Hi, everybody. Great job. Really excited about the program. I think we can just jump right in and get started. So let's see the trailer for team number one, Meove.
Welcome to the first presentation. I'm going to present you our game, Meove. So first I want to introduce our team. We have myself, Michael, the people person, Dominic, Chief of Cats, Leah, the brain, Daniel, and Julia, the magic music box. So let's talk about our game. As you know, the theme this year is Grimm fairy tales, and we brainstormed a lot. And in the end, we came up with the fairy tale Puss in Boots, der gestiefelte Kater, and took the idea of having two character concepts to solve puzzles. You can see here some concept art and some prototyping. And then we went further in developing our idea and decided to do everything on a grid and triangle based. We went further and said, yeah, let's make it 3D because we are a group of 5 members, use low poly art style. And we really wanted to create good mechanics instead of just many mechanics. And this is what we came up with. So we started with the vision. We took some inspiration. We found very beautiful models of cats, of low poly worlds, and so on. And we thought, yeah, that's going to be amazing. We're going to have nice graphics, nice gameplay, and everything. But then, unfortunately, reality came back in the form of monogame. So the whole course is in monogame. That's a low-level game engine, and it's awesome to learn things, but it's not that great to move fast. So it took us a while to just get the 3D scene working, and some more time to just starting trading the assets. But let's talk about the evolution of our game. As every team, we started with a physical prototype made out of cardboard and paper, and we played that a lot, and it gave great insight on how we should proceed, what we should improve, and what we cannot really do. And from there, we did our first functional minimum, which is this retro-looking, orthographic, 3D kind-ish style of game. Yeah, but there are always problems. And for us, it was triangles at the beginning. Triangles, they look good and they make fun, but it's not really that easy to use if you compare it to just a regular grid. And it took us some effort to figure that out, but we finally managed that. And we got to the second stage where we started the proper 3D, which took quite some time. We added shading, shadows, and worked on a lot of assets and started to introduce the mechanics. Then we added some UI and also some sound. Yeah, and then we kept working, and we went to the animations. So here again, lots of problems. We decided to do our own skinned animations. And as you can see in the bottom right corner, it's supposed to be a cube, but doesn't look like it. Yeah, we have many problems with that, but at the end, we finally fixed the bugs and we got to the final stage of the game, where we have refined custom shading, we have the skin animations working, we have a custom written story, we have a tutorial, and we also placed some little secrets in the game we would like you to explore and find. So this said, let's make some recap what we achieved in this project. So we have a lot of commits for the repository, so almost 10 per day. That's a lot of work. We wrote a lot of code and we deleted a lot of code again. And yeah, the repository is pretty big. Most of them are the custom assets and the sound and also some code, of course. Then I really want to highlight that we created everything from scratch. So all the assets we did ourselves, the sound tracks, and most of the sound effects as well. And we have over 30 custom-made assets. Altogether, it was a lot of fun, a lot of work. We learned a lot. We reached our high target, which is pretty nice. And from frequent gamers, we got feedback like, hey, it's not as shitty as expected. And I think that's pretty okay. Yeah, this said, I would say, let's go into the gameplay and yeah, let's play. Okay, as you can see, we are here in the game, one of the levels, and I'm gonna start by collecting some resources such that I can actually build something to walk over. here in the box, we can change from one to the other character. And then with the boots, we are able to walk over the spikes and build a bridge over the spikes such that the cat on 4 legs can cross it. Yeah, you might wonder why don't we just go right to the finishing target, the perfect purple tile. That's actually not yet possible because we don't have enough wood to build the planks. So we're just gonna open the door and try to get the wood. But for this, we have to go again on 4 legs because balancing on 2 legs is much harder than on 4. Yeah, after the change, we can cross the bridge, we can collect the bird as well as the wood, go back to the box, and then finish the level. Now I want to quickly highlight the inventory at the bottom, and in the top right, we have some UI buttons to skip a level or to exit the game. Yeah. Now, next, I will show you the map. So we have an in-game map. It's a bit more abstract view of the level of the current state, and that might help you a lot in solving some of the puzzles. And then we also have the custom-made story written in a cat perspective view. Yeah, and we're pretty happy with that. So let's go to the next level. So in this level, I just want to take some time and say thank you to everyone involved. Everyone tested this, the GTC for hosting the whole course, and also my team, which yeah, we went through a lot during this course. Thank you very much.
So super, thank you so much, Team One. That was fantastic. And I just want to let everyone know that this game, as well as all the others, are available already to download. There are links in the description of the YouTube live stream, also on the Game Technology Center website. So if you're curious to play, you can already get started. And with that, I think we can move on to team number 2, Somnium. Let's see their trailer.
Yes, hello everybody. My name is Pascal, and we created the game Somnium. As you can see here, we are 5 members. Tian is our artist. She created all the lovely animations, as well as the trailer that you just saw, which also looks super fantastic. And the other members, Andy, Aiden, Tatiana, and myself, worked on the software of the game. So from the beginning, we knew that we wanted to make a fun co-op game that you can play together with your friends. And the idea that we eventually came up with is that the children would listen to a fairy tale and they're drawing alongside it. But at night, they have a nightmare, and the creatures from the drawing come back to haunt them. The creatures can appear in any of the 8 colors, and the players must shoot them with the correct colors to fill the creatures in and complete the drawing, essentially, to defeat them. And the cooperative aspect of the game is the fact that the players only have access to the 4 primary colors here. And if they If the enemy is, for example, orange, then they would need to combine red and yellow to make that color. So in summary, the core game mechanic is shoot the enemies in the same color, combine colors if necessary. We started off with a physical prototype to test out the mechanics and rules of our game. Overall, the idea translated pretty well. The only adaptation we had to make was the fact that the physical game is turn-based. And the big takeaway we got from that is that it is absolutely vital for us to include ranged enemies, since the primary attack of the players is a ranged beam attack, and the wolf enemies have to get close to bite the players. That means that there's no reason for the players to move. So by adding the ranged enemies, we force the players to move, otherwise they would get hit by a projectile. And here you can see what the game looked like after a few days. All the basic elements are roughly there, but of course it looks very different from what you've just seen in the trailer. We have the player, the beam attack, some basic enemies, obstacles, and collision. And also at this point, we realized that two of our team members, Aydin and Tian, are extreme night owls. As you can see from the timestamps, they more or less work night shifts essentially. It meant that we never could have a meeting in the morning, but personally, I was also okay with that. Yeah, and here I would like to highlight a technical aspect of our game. So this was the starting area where the players spawn when the game starts. And if we then zoom out and go to the middle of the map, you can see that our level is very big. And this is all one continuous zone with no loading screens in between. So that meant that initially we had some performance problems. And what we did, we made two major optimizations to handle that. So first, we did the standard video game approach, which is that if the assets like the tree, cactus, and stones are not visible within the camera, then they're not drawn. And every time the camera moves a substantial distance, then we perform this check again to see which assets we should draw. The other thing we did is that the entire level that you see is segmented into 4 zones for the 4 primary colors. And we also used that segmentation to divide the game logic as much as possible. So for example, if all the players are in the red zones, that means we don't need to check whether or not the players reach the checkpoint in any of the yellow, green, or blue zones. And that fixed our performance problem. Now to the animation. As you've already seen from the trailer, it looks absolutely stunning, and they are all hand-drawn by Tian. But of course, this was also extremely time-consuming. She also composed the music from scratch that plays throughout the game, and she also created the sound effects and the trailer, of course. The music, the background music that plays throughout the game actually has a unique, every region of the 4 colors has a unique flair on top of it. So for example, the blue region, which features water ponds, you can hear water droplet sounds, and in the green forest region, you can hear birds chirping. So this is to give each zone a bit of a unique feel and make it more immersive. Towards the end of the semester, we held playtests, and the big feedback point that we got was that the existing beam combining mechanic was frustrating. So if you remember from the concept art, if 2 beams intersect, then the combined beam would form. But that meant that the players would essentially have their attacks interrupted, and most of the combinations were also unintentional usually. So we fixed that by making the beams no longer intersect. Instead, the colors combine automatically when the players get close to each other. So this way, the players will always hit what they're aiming at, since the beams don't intersect, but they still have to work together to form the right colors. The next point is the health. We don't show any conventional health bars in our game. Instead, the players lose color. So as they're low in health, they lose saturation. To make this more clear, we added a brief flash when the players initially take damage, and also they lose color particles, as you can see in the video. And Also, additionally, when they are low on health, critically low, they flash continuously to alert the player that, hey, you should seek cover and let your teammates heal you. Lastly, players wished that there was more variety in combat, and we introduced what we call the big boys and big girls. So they are elite enemies, they are bigger, have more health, deal more damage, and in general are just more menacing. And if defeated, they will drop power-ups, so these 3 orbs. So they are rainbow mode, shield, and heal. And in general, this makes the combat much more exciting since it gives you a lot more freedom in how to approach the enemies and how to defeat them. So if you thought that any of this gameplay looked interesting or exciting, fun, and you wish you could play that, well, you're in luck because you can. If you go to somnium-color.itch.io, you can download the game for free and test it for yourself with your friends. It's available on Windows, Linux, and Mac. And the download link should also be in the video description. Yeah, and now that's it from my side, and let's see some gameplay.
So welcome to Somnium's gameplay demo. This is Aydin from Team 2, and yeah, let's just jump right in. So the objective of the game is to find and fill all the 4 colored orbs, and along the way you will have to face enemies. And the most important thing that you need to remember is to shoot them with the same color and combine your colors if necessary. Every once in a while there's a big boy or a big girl spawning, and if defeated, they will drop exciting power-ups that you can later activate. So in this case, the players have now a rainbow power-up, and once activated, it will allow them to attack in all colors for a short period of time. And honestly, it looks like a disco, and it's very fun to use. Yeah, the next big girl drops a healing power-up, which heals and revives all your teammates if used. And you can also heal your teammates by shooting a beam at them. As you defeat the enemies, you harvest their essence, and you can see that the essence is transferred to the bar on the top of the screen, which is an indicator of the total amount of essence your team has collected so far. Other than beaming, you can also use melee attacks to fight the enemies. You can see Tian doing that at the left of the screen. And yeah, the next big girl dropped a shield power-up, which the players immediately activate to protect themselves from all sources of damage. Moving along the path, you can also see healing in action. And it's also noticeable that as the game progresses, the waves of enemies become more and more challenging and harder to defeat. Yeah, Pascal is now dead, so Andy is now trying to reach him to revive him. And in order to do that, he needs to stand there, making himself vulnerable to all damage for the time. And finally, the blue orb is here, so now the players are transferring their essence to the orb, after which they can look for the other orbs and complete the game. And that's basically the gameplay for Somnium. Thank you so much.
So, thank you, Pascal and Aydin, for that great presentation and demo. Really enjoyed it. The game is beautiful. We can move right along. So let's see the trailer for Team 3, Grimmetropolis.
Welcome to our game, Grimmetropolis. Help us protect our treasure on the castle by building defense towers. Oh, I see enemies coming. Let's move.
So, welcome everyone. My name is Michael. I'm here to present you our game Grimmetropolis. This game was developed by Yelan, Tianyu, Manuel, and me. So what was the big idea of our game? The big idea was to combine tower defense game mechanics as well as cooperative multiplayer game elements. And in a tower defense game, usually you don't control a specific character in the game world, but with our cooperative aspect, we wanted that each player has their own character in the game world to control. So here we have So here we have some characters we created, and as you know, this year's theme is Grimm's fairy tale. So we created characters from, we took inspiration from various stories of Grimm's fairy tale to create the characters. So yeah, regarding the game mechanics, so it's a tower defense game, so you need to defend something against the enemies. And in our case, it's a crown which floats above the castle. And as you've already seen in the trailer, you have to do certain things in order to defend as long as possible. So first point is you need to build up defenses. Building up defenses will cost resources, and this will already lead to another task the players have to do. They need to collect resources. And last point is the players have to attack the enemies because they will try to steal the crown and destroy all the buildings which you built throughout the game. In the end, the main goal is just to survive as long as possible, and the enemies will come attack in hordes which become bigger and bigger. So now let's talk a little bit about the journey we made throughout the game development. Like all other teams, we started with a physical prototype, and this physical prototype really was important to answer the question, is this game principle working or not? And we could happily find out that it worked well. We could see that the players need to work hand in hand and find the best strategy to defend against ever bigger hordes of enemies. At a certain stage during our game development, we had something like this. And as you can see, there are enemies coming from the left-hand side of the screen to the right. And yeah, they're walking along some outposts, which you can see here. And yeah, so a lot of game mechanics were very easily implemented, but there was one issue. It didn't really felt polished. I mean, as you can see here as an example, the enemies die immediately without any real cool animation. And that's where we had to reiterate a lot of game mechanics throughout the project. And in this case, we just added an animation that you can see projectiles flying from the outpost to the enemies. Another thing you can see here are the enemies. It is not very clever from the enemies to walk right next to the outpost because then they immediately die. And this was also a very big pillar of our game, the AI. I will very quickly explain how our AI works. So as you've already seen in the game, the map is divided in grids. And what we do behind the scenes is we put a graph on top of the map. And basically each knot in this graph represents a map tile. And the knots or the map tiles are connected by edges. Each edge will represent a certain action the enemies can take. So it's about walking or attacking, doing ranged attacks, etc. And each of these edges have a certain weight. And this weight determines what kind of action the enemies take. And these weights are influenced by the environment. So depending on the terrain, on the buildings, the enemy types, all these kind of things will influence the weight. And with this, we could really fiddle around with the AI a little bit and force them to behave in a certain way. And as an example, what we could do is if we had a castle and right next to it, we had a lot of outposts, the enemy will not try to attack through the outpost if it comes from this direction. They will try to walk around it. And this is some more intelligent behavior than what we had before, which we think is very cool. So yeah, here you can see our alpha version of our game. And as you can see already here, we added a lot of new things like the magical artifact over the castle. We added items to attack the enemies, tools to collect resources, etc. But there was still a lot of work to do. At one point, we also gave this game to other people to try this game out, and we got a lot of feedback. So one thing which was very obvious is that there was no way how they could find out what they really needed to do. So what we did is just implemented a tutorial, and then there were a lot of very small things, but they would enhance the gameplay a lot. I want to make an example here. So for example, assume a player grabs an item in his hands and there was an item on the ground. So almost all the players thought they could just swap the items directly, but we didn't have this in the beginning. And when we changed it, we really saw that it improved a lot about the experience you have with controls. And there were a lot of many other small things we improved in general. So yeah, the final polish is something you will see in the gameplay video afterwards. So in conclusion, I would say we all had it was a very fun and interesting experience. What we've really learned though is that certain game mechanics just need a lot of more time. So if you reiterate through them, they just require a lot of time. We had so many ideas we wanted to implement at the start, but time was against us. And during a certain point in the development, we had to say, no, we stop with adding more game mechanics. It's better just to polish what we already have. And in the end, we are very happy with what we got in the end, because the key point of this game is that it encourages you to play with your teammates. You have to communicate with them. You have to try out new strategies to fight off the enemies as long as possible. And what we also really like is that if you survive for a very long time in the game, there were so many buildings and enemies on the field. Yeah, so it's very cool that it's this chaotic in a way. So with that, I would like to jump to the gameplay. All right, let's all choose a character, and usually the game starts with a tutorial, as I mentioned before, but you can skip the tutorial just by killing the tutorial advisor. We already divided our work a little bit, so the Frog King and Cinderella are going to collect resources. The booted cat is responsible for building structures. So as you can see here, he's building some farms. They provide us with food, and food is an important resource to upkeep the outposts, which will actually shoot down the enemies. On the top right hand side, you can see the wave is approaching, and on the top left hand side, you see an exclamation mark, which shows that the enemies are coming from there. So the booted cat is going to build up a quite big defense at this side of the castle. So Snow White is building a hospital south of the castle. This hospital is just a building you can use to get healed back up in case you get damaged by the enemies. As you can see here, there's the first wave incoming, and Snow White is trying to take care directly with the enemies, and the outpost also damages the wave. Anyway, we can already see the next wave is incoming on the top right hand side. But these enemies have to walk all the way around by the river. And this is why Booted Cat is already building up the next defenses southeast of the castle. As you can see from the resources, we don't have any wood anymore, so we really need to build something. In this case, we build some walls to block off the enemy from approaching the castle further. At the east of the river, you can see a catapult, and the catapult has the unfair advantage that it can outrange outposts, so someone has to take care of them manually. So Snow White is doing here a great job. So the next wave should be soon approaching. Now you can see the next wave is already approaching from the west. They're attacking the castle directly. the defenses were not up, and Snow White is trying to do everything what she can do to defend this castle. Is it possible? We'll see. We'll see. Oh, it's going to be very close. Okay, no, they stole the crown. But there are not many enemies left, so Snow White can easily take it back to the castle. All right, we could defend this wave off. I hope you enjoyed this, and yeah, if you can do it better, play our game. Thank you for your attention.
So thank you so much, Michael. That was really great. Actually, you got a nice comment in the chat from another Michael who just said your game looks brilliant. So congrats to your team.
Thank you very much.
Let's move on. We can go on to team number 4, Looking Grim, and see their trailer.
Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to our final presentation. I'm Zach Cook, and we're Team 4, and we developed the game called Looking Grim. So we decided to go for a more older retro style of game, and we went for more specifically a 2D platformer game with graphics and assets that are drawn in what's known as pixel art. And a recent game that did this 2D retro platformer thing quite well is Celeste over here. And we sometimes came to this game for inspiration. We also knew that we wanted to play around with the concept of time in our game. And we wanted to tie this to this year's theme of Grimm's fairy tales. And we came across this tale of the wolf and the 7 young goats, where the youngest goat of this 7 young goat family escapes an attack by an evil wolf by jumping inside a grandfather clock. And we thought, great, we've got this grandfather clock. We want to play around with the concept of time. This fits together in a great backstory. And it gave birth to both of our main characters in the game, our little young goat over here, and this kind-hearted grandfather clock called Albert. Now, a bit more about the time reversal and its mechanics. So we thought that if a goat would wander around, if our main character, the goat, would wander around the level, he would eventually need to go back to a previous position that he was at, and that he would be able to invoke this time reversal ability, and he would be going back through his positions and reach this previous position. So an example of a puzzle that uses this time reversal mechanic is over here. There's a bookshelf in your way, and you need to get past this bookshelf. So what you can do is you can go up to the bookshelf, you can take the bookshelf, and you can grab it back. And then you have a position in time now that is beyond the bookshelf, and you can revert back to that position. And now you've made your way past the bookshelf, and you've solved the puzzle. And the way that the player would use time reversal, the time reversal ability in the beginning, we thought that we'd do it continuously. So the player would hold down a key, and he would be going back through his positions continuously. And then once he reached a position that he was happy with, he could then release the key and continue onwards. But this turned out to actually be very frustrating for the player, because he would maybe be exploring a lot, and then he would have to get back to a previous position, which meant that he would have to wait a long time in this time reversal mode. And as well, was hard for the player because sometimes you needed to revert to a very specific point, and releasing the key at that exact point was actually quite hard. So we reworked this ability, and instead, this is how it looks like now. You can lay down a time point and register your position in time. And now using the time reversal ability will take you back through those time points instead. And it made the game actually much more snappier and fun to play, but it did take away from the feeling of you like really reverting back through time. So now that we had this time reversal ability sorted out, it was time to get down to business and start actually creating puzzles that would use this time reversal ability. So here you can see a sketch of one of our rooms. It takes a lot of time to sort of come up with these ideas. And then once we have like a bit of a sketch, we then like sometimes make a prototype and try and test it out to see if it works. Then after that, we would get down to making the building blocks and creating the assets that would then build up our level. And this included maybe doing tile sets, creating like different obstacles, creating decorations in the game, creating backgrounds. And then once all of that was done, we could then move down to actually creating the level. Over here, we used for our game a software called Tiled, which allowed us to sort of place anywhere we wanted, like lots of different tiles and lots of different obstacles. And once that was done, we could then export this into a type of file that could then be imported into our game, and yeah, that we could actually play. And after repeating this process many different times of sketching, getting ideas, and then creating them in Tiled, then we would connect them all together over here and end up with this looking grim world over here. This is what our game sort of looks like right now. It's like at the top left, we have our tutorial rooms, which then go into a forest area, and then you can jump down into the cave, which then splits, and you can decide to go left or right, and then eventually you'd reach this bottom right over here, which is the end of our game. So enough about this. I think we can now like get down to some gameplay. Okay, so here's our game. Here we're actually in one of the tutorial rooms in the goat's house. We're controlling this little goat. We can move her around, and yeah, let's get down to some exploring. So down over here we see a lever and a door and a key behind it, and also a locked door at the top. So maybe we can go ahead and try pulling this lever to see what it does. Okay, so it just seems to switch which door blocks our way to the key. So we don't really know what to do at this point. Maybe we can make our way back to the top. Okay, it seems we're stuck, but actually here we can invoke our time reversal ability, make our way back to the beginning. So maybe we can use this trick to get past these doors. Let's leave a time point between the doors and go ahead and now pull the lever and revert back to this time point. Okay, great. So we've made it past the door. That was a quick and easy puzzle, but now we need to make our way back to the beginning. So let's just go ahead and hold down the time reversal ability to make it to the beginning. Let's jump over the gap, open up the door, and there we go. We've solved our first puzzle. Okay, here there's a button on the left, there's a platform, and if we hit this button over here, then the platform goes to the other side, but we can't really reach it in time. So here again, we can use our trick of our time reversal ability and just leave down a time point over here, go ahead and pull this button, and then quickly use the time reversal ability to make our way onto the platform. And now we reach this bookshelf over here. We can also use the trick of laying down the time points and proceeding onwards. This is the forest area, so we didn't add the puzzles here just for the sake of the demo, but let's jump down here into this deep dark pit. Okay, so now we've reached the cave, And here there's a pillar. We maybe can push or pull this pillar. Okay, we can only push it, but we can't really pull it. Okay, I think that's good to know. Maybe we can go down and keep exploring. And okay, so here there seems to be a few boxes. One is lit up and the others are dimly lit. And we seem to be going through the dimly lit boxes, but the lit up boxes we can stand on top of. So let's use our time reversal trick here and just jump over the dimly lit box and leave a time point over it. And now we can hit the button and revert back in time on top of the lit box. And let's do that again for the last box. Jump over, leave a time point, switch, and then go ahead and revert. And nice, we've made our way over. And here also there seems to be some dimly lit platforms and some lit up platforms. Let's also use a similar trick here. Just leave a time point over the dimly lit platform and then switch, and then we can revert back on top of the lit up platform. Let's do that again and again. Okay. Okay, now we've made our way to the top. Let's go ahead and push this pillar up against the step over here. This step on the left might help us to get over to the locked door at the top. So how do we get back? Of course, now we can sort of just use our time reversal ability, hold it down, and get all the way back to the very beginning of the level. Okay, and now we can jump on the pillar, jump over to the door, and we've made it. So yeah, that was it. Thank you for listening, and feel free to check out the link in the description to try out our game.
Thanks a lot, Zach. So I agree. Yeah, the game is a lot of fun. So I hope some people will download and try. It's really a cool one. We can move on. We have 2 teams left. So let's go to team number 5, 7 Dwarves Legends Untold.
Mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest of them all? A lovely maid I see, lips as red as roses, hair as black as ebony, skin as white as snow. Alas, she's more beautiful than you. Once upon a time, a princess and her 7 warriors fell to the forces of an evil witch. But not this time.
Once upon a time, in a land far away, there was a young girl born with skin as white as snow, skin as white as snow, lips as red as blood, and hair as black as ebony. And she was named Snow White. One day, the evil queen of the land asked her magic mirror, who might be the fairest of us all? And he answers, Queen, you are full fair, 'tis true, but Snow White fairer is than you. In a fit of jealousy, the queen sends for Snow White to be killed. Fortunately, Snow White stumbles across 7 dwarfs who vow to protect her. As though foretold by a prophecy long ago, the dwarfs are well prepared for this epic journey. And now, dear viewers, it's on you to save Snow White. 7 Dwarfs Legends Untold is a multiplayer co-op game designed to connect you and your friends. In teams of up to 4 players, you will dive into the world of the 7 dwarves and fight enemies sent by the evil queen to kill Snow White. Along the way, you will face waves of increasing difficulty and be rewarded with upgrades designed to make the game feel different every time you play. We're a team of 3 software engineers consisting of Laurie, Harry, and myself, and enlisted the help of 2 designers, Albert and Tim, who are close friends of ours. When we set out to build this game, we wanted to create something that could be the life of any party. That lets you share a riveting experience with up to 4 of your friends. We built this game around action-packed gameplay with fast-paced combat. Uniquely, our game puts the player in control, allowing for infinite playstyles. Most importantly, though, no run is ever the same. With 7 unique dwarves, each complete with individual attacks and abilities, you'll never run out of new and exciting strategies to try. So why stick to just one dwarf? In our game, you can switch characters amid the action and always play the dwarf best suited to win against the current wave of enemies. So how did we arrive at our final game idea? It was a long journey. One of the first steps for us was building a physical prototype that could be played using toy dwarfs. As you might have noticed in these pictures, the world was initially split into a surface world and a subterranean world where players mine minerals that are later exchanged for upgrades and other items. Even though this was just an early prototype, we learned, among other things, that getting movement to feel just right would be a key challenge in building an immersive experience. We also realized we needed to give Snow White an active role in the game and allow players to interact with her. So with some questions answered and many others uncovered, we started coding. So soon enough, we delivered our first playable demo, complete with a surface world, our first playable dwarf, a basic enemy, and the mineable underground world. We learned that although it was a key part of the game, people just didn't like mining. It felt too much like a chore. So instead, we focused on developing epic combat. For this to succeed, we needed an exciting set of characters. We started by brainstorming for potential enemies and came up with a bunch of different concepts. Most of them haven't even made it into the game yet. We looked at samurais for inspiration as we developed our first dwarf. And this is how he progressed. We experimented with many different concepts for the remaining dwarves. Of course, we also needed to come up with a map layout that was both dense enough to facilitate gripping gameplay, but also open enough to give players enough room to fight. This was a surprisingly difficult trade-off to make. The movement of our dwarves needed to feel natural and intuitive, but not floaty or difficult to control. Despite having platformer elements, we made the uncommon decision to build our game around a physics engine. This turned out to be both a blessing and a curse. On the one hand, the physics engine helped us significantly in building 7 completely different dwarfs. On the other hand, we ended up constantly extending or overriding the physics engine to make things feel just right. We also wanted to make sure characters were continuously evolving throughout the game. So we introduced an upgrade system. After every wave, each player gets to pick an upgrade by interacting with Snow White. But now, I'd like to introduce you to the stars of our game, the 7 dwarfs. We started with Takeshi, a dangerously fast katana-wielding dwarf inspired by samurais. He's a powerful and agile character that's just so much fun to play in close-quarter combat. Archie is quick, light on his feet, and lets you attack enemies from afar. But watch out not to get caught up in a tight situation. Our wizard dwarf's power comes from the heavens, as he's able to strike enemies with lightning. Thor is the heavy hitter. He's slow, but strong, resilient, and can often be the key to getting your team out of a pickle. Monk's special power is manipulating gravity in his environment. When executed just right, he can yeet enemies across the screen. This can be particularly useful for crowd control. Dreamy is a little different. By himself, he's rather helpless, but fortunately, he's haunted by powerful shadow monsters that the player can control. Doc loves beer, but he's also great at healing fallen dwarfs and bringing them back to life. Last, but certainly not least, we have our lovely Snow White. Now, no game would be complete without enemies, so let's take a look. Our primary enemy is a skeleton bird. He's not particularly powerful, but he's strong in numbers, and he's powered by a rather complex pathfinding AI. Implementing pathfinding turned out to be quite the challenge. Given the vertical nature of our world, the pathfinding algorithm had to make use of detailed jump simulations based on the physical properties of the enemy in order to make sure he would be able to accurately hit his targets. Stabby Dog takes our enemy to the next level. By throwing spears, he can hurt you from far away. Although he's not particularly smart, he's fast and he really sneaks up on you. Finally, I'd like to introduce you to Gingzem Golem. He's particularly slow and heavy, but deals large amounts of damage. He can't be stunned and has gained the ability to knock you back, so he needs to be approached with care. Now, considering all the characters you've just seen, our game actually consists of over 270 unique animations. Giving the characters this level of detail required implementing an intricate animation pipeline capable of supporting radically different movement sets. So thanks for listening. And with that, I guess we'll move on to the demo. All right, awesome. So let's jump right into the action. So up to 4 players can join, but today just Laurin and Harry are going to be playing as our Katana Dwarf and our Archer. All right, so right away we can see our Katana Dwarf is off handling some of the Skelly Birds on the right. Awesome. And meanwhile, Harry is using Archer to pick off the Stabby Dog from a safe distance. The controls for Archer include auto-aim to help the player keep up with the pace of the game. All right, what's our Katana doing over here? Looks like he's going after that golem. Oh, so it looks like Lauren's Katana Dwarf has just died. So Harry's going to go and switch to our Doctor Dwarf. And reviving. Oh, narrowly escaped that golem. So now Laurin is switching his dwarf. He just switched to Thor. And Harry is switched to our wizards. So they're going after that golem over there. Took care of him. Now they're moving to the right. All right. So now all the enemies have been killed. So they can go get some upgrades from Snow White. But first, it looks like Laurin has switched to Dreamy and Harry switched to Monk. So now Laurin is busy picking off some enemies while his sleeping Dreamy is being protected by Harry's Monk. They're quite the synergy, as you can see. And so that concludes our demo for today. I'd like to thank the GTC team for making all this possible, and we're hoping to bring this game to you soon. In the meantime, you can download it for free as a beta on our website. The link is in the description.
Thanks a lot, Carl. Really, really nice presentation. You got tons of comments about the beautiful characters and animations, so to check that out once we're finished. So we can move on. We have one more game to show you. This is team number 6. Last but definitely not least, let's see Hansel and Gretel and the Magic of Color.
Hello everyone, and welcome to our final presentation of Hansel and Gretel and the Magic of Color. Joshua, Martina, and I have created this game, and we are really happy to present it today. In our game, Hansel and Gretel are lost in the forest. They must find their way out of the dark forest guided by magic light. The magic light allows them to stand on top of colored platforms, as long as the right colored light is shining on top of the surfaces. Our game is played with 2 players cooperating. They are working together by mixing their 2 colors. This enhances the cooperative nature of our game, and it furthermore requires the 2 players to communicate really clearly what they wanted to do. Without unambiguous communication, one of the players can fall into the abyss when the other players jumps onto the next platform. We wanted our game to be simple and yet attractive. For example, these 2 beautiful characters below were created by Florina, Joshua's sister. Our vision was that the color mixing mechanic and the cooperative nature should play together like a symbiosis. And when failing, the respawn and the next try should be fast and without any hindrances. To test the core gameplay mechanics with the color platforms, the color mixing, the 2 players interacting with each other and communicating, we have built a physical prototype. We learned much from playing this prototype. We especially found good values for the lamp radii and jump height. For now, we just had the turn-based game on paper. But we all agreed that playing it in real time might feel different.
Also, I in particular was a bit skeptical whether the concept would actually work as a game, and that's why I threw together this digital version of the prototype in Python in a Friday afternoon and let my family play it to see if they liked it. My family had fun playing it, and this convinced us that the concept would probably work, and we continued with the idea. So now we had the concept fleshed out and started to work on our game. In the first week, we focused on building a solid foundation, something we can build on to not get into too much trouble later on, and only focused on the core mechanics. And this is how it looked like. It's pretty simple. We had simple physics like collision, gravity, and simple rendering for the players and blocks. We also implemented the color mixing mechanic. There were no animations or graphics really, apart from the placeholder graphics for the characters, but even at this stage, you can already see where our game will take the direction. The core of our game is already here. With the core set up, our next big goal was to improve the rendering and include nice graphics. Now this looks way better now. We have a proper background, tile rendering, the characters had animations too, although they were still placeholder graphics. I want to highlight one problem we encountered in the making of this. We wanted to minimize our work for creating a level. We wanted to automatically calculate which graphic to render for each block. For example, would automatically detect that a block would be considered a floor tile based on its neighbors, and then render the floor texture. Unfortunately, this turned out to be extremely complicated as there are so many variations you would need to take into account. So we gave up on this idea eventually and set the render texture manually. This, of course, means that it's more work now to create a level, and at this stage, we didn't have a level editor, so it got really tedious. So naturally, the next big project we focused on was implementing a level editor. We had plans to make a level editor from the beginning, but we purposely decided to push it back to a later stage of the project where most things of the game were already fixed. This way, we did not need to update the editor every time we changed something about the game, what would be really annoying. So this is it, our editor. It made our life really way easier. For example, placing blocks is now super easy, barely an inconvenience. Just select the variant you want and then place it in the level. But the editor can do more than just placing blocks. You can also place and edit entities like the players or levers and change settings about the level itself. But the best feature about our editor is our live testing feature. By just hitting the enter key, you can play the level you just created. We created our editor in a way that uses the same engine as the game, and this allows you to instantly test what you just created. This turned out to be a really valuable and time-saving feature, as you did not need to start up the actual game every time you wanted to test something out. With our new fancy level editor, we were able to easily create all the levels for the final game. But while it's now easy to create and test the levels, we're just three mere mortal people, and we can't find all bugs in our levels ourselves. And that's why we let other people find our bugs for us by playing our game. And we call this playtesting. On multiple occasions, we let different people play our game and observed how they played. Among the testers were, of course, our friends and families, but we also had the opportunity to organize a playtesting session at a school due to my father being a teacher there. And this way, 20 kids ranging from 4th to 6th grade also got to play our game. It was really fascinating to see other people play the game that we created, and the overall positive and really helpful feedback was a joy to hear and really motivated us to continue, especially as the kids stated that they all loved our game, which, to be honest, really surprised us, as we were expecting them not to really like the game, as it's not like Fortnite, you know, but no, they all loved it, and it was really a pleasant surprise. During the playtesting, we discovered again that designing levels is actually hard. For example, here, we have this room you see here on screen, and it aims at teaching the players how to mix the colors, and then you traverse the yellow platform, else you would fall down if you don't mix the color correctly. Unfortunately, the platform was just a bit too small, so the players would just be able to jump over it, which all players ended up doing. Yeah, every single one of them. Well, this and other feedback from the playtesting really helped us to polish our game and make it feel better in general, which brings us where we're at now, the final game. Overall, we really enjoyed making this game. We are surprised that the whole development process went relatively smooth with no major issues, and we're really thankful for that. We are happy with what we were able to achieve, and we think that we were able to create a fun and cozy little game for two. With that being said, let's have a look at our game, shall we?
In our game demo, we start right in the menu, where the two players can select their input method. We support both keyboard and gamepads, and the players can choose between Hansel and Gretel. We have prepared a special selection of levels for you. This means we start right after the evil witch. She wanted to fatten Hansel and eat him, but luckily Gretel saved him. Let's hope he's not too fat and can still jump over obstacles. In this level, the two players have to work together to stand on top of the magenta platform. Gretel shines her red light on top of the platform, which allowed Hansel to jump upwards. And now he has the green light, and green and red can be combined to stand on top of the yellow platform. And Hansel is able to reach the lever and can exit the level. In the next level, both players again have to work together and have to take different paths. We see Gretel going down, and now she's stuck. Hopefully Hansel can save her. Oh no, he died. Okay, let's try it again. Gretel goes again to the green flame, and hopefully Hansel will have the blue light this time. Yeah, like that. Perfect. Nice. And now they again need the red light to stand on top of the yellow platform to exit this level. The last level we want to show you is really hard, but thankfully we have two veterans playing here. So we really hope they do not fall down here, but it looks really good and we see all the different color combinations. This concludes our demo and our presentation. Thank you.
So thank you so much, Team 6. And I think now we should give a big round of applause for all of these games. Fantastic job. So please join me wherever you are in the world in clapping. Really, really great work. I've played them all and they're so much fun. Today, we are awarding an audience award winner, which means you can vote for your favorite game. So we're going to open voting right now. So please take a moment to vote. We're going to show a trailer, a run through of all the games one more time, so you can watch them with a link and a QR code to vote. So please take a look and vote for your favorite game. So those were our 6 games one more time. Please log in and vote right now. But while you're doing that, I want to introduce 2 digital artists at the Game Technology Center, Feline and Phaser, who have been helping with the course this semester, who are going to tell us about some special achievements. So please go ahead.
Hi, everyone. So yeah, like Bob said, Dominique, Fraser, and I have been, I've had the privilege to be teaching assistant for the Game Lab once again this year, and we always thoroughly enjoyed it. We've loved playtesting all those great games and seeing them develop over the semester.
Yep, just to echo what Feline said, it's always such a joy to be a TA for this course, and yeah, all the games this year are amazing. So before we find out the winner of the Audience Award and the Jury Award, we'd like to present some fun achievements that the students this year have earned. So without hesitation, enjoy the achievements for 2021.
So big applause for these achievements. Great job, all very well earned. Voting is still open. We're going to close it soon. So let's play the loop one more time. This is your last chance to vote. So if you haven't done so, do it now. Super. So we're going to close the voting. A few more seconds. If you haven't done it right now. Please vote right now. But I actually, while we tally up the votes and determine who is the audience award winner, I want to introduce a special guest who is with us tonight. So we are very, very privileged in the course to have the support of a AAA game studio located in Brighton in the UK called Studio Gobo. Nick Grover from Gobo is on the line with us. And Nick was super kind to organize a playtesting of all the games at their studio with their expert game designers and game developers. So each game was played by 6 or 7 different people. They produced pages of feedback, which we delivered to all of the teams. So we're very, very fortunate to have their support. Really, I want to give a huge heartfelt thanks from me. I really appreciate it. Let me introduce Nick, who's going to say a few words about each of the team from their professional perspective. So Nick, please go ahead.
Hi everyone. Thanks, Bob. As Bob said, I'm from Studio Gobo, or a game studio in the UK. Every year we have the honor of being asked to look at the games that you guys have spent the last few months putting together. And I just want to say thank you very much for inviting me along today as well. This is the second year in a row where ETH haven't been able to do this in person, which, as much as that's a shame for you guys, it means I get to dial in and hear how you've approached all your projects, which is really interesting for me. So I think we may even have a few of my colleagues watching the stream today as well. So we're glad we get that opportunity. In fact, I think Bob alluded to this earlier, actually, in the presentation as well. This is a good representation of how the games industry has had to adapt over the last 15 months. And we're fortunate that making games collaboratively is something that lends itself so well to remote working, whether it's on your course or within the context of a game studio. So this has probably shifted how the industry will function going forwards, with a combination of people based in studios working alongside others who are contributing remotely from home. These last few months have been great prep for you as you look at starting your careers. So I think you should have all received the feedback for each of your games that we put together. A bit of background on how we did that so that you understand where it's come from. Bob's already mentioned a bit of this, but I had a team of 19 volunteers at Gobo, each of whom I asked to look at 2 of the games, meaning each project was played by 6 or 7 people. These playtesters were from all disciplines across the studio, so there's artists, engineers, designers, testers, producers, and the feedback therefore comes from a wide range of people with different areas of expertise. And these are people who, between them, have helped make dozens and dozens of games. So yeah, I sent the feedback over the weekend. I think Bob's shared it with you already. I hope it all makes sense. What Bob's asked me to do today is just make give a very brief overview of what we thought about the games for the benefit of everybody else watching on the stream, what we liked and where we think it would be good to focus on if you wanted to take these games further, and then of course pick our jury winner. So starting with Team 1, Meove. This starts out deceptively simple, but it had a really nice difficulty ramp as you introduced more and more mechanics. We liked how, as you progress through the game, some of the puzzles start out seeming simple, only to turn out to be more complicated than at first glance. There's some great puzzle design in here. And despite the difficulty at times, it's actually a very relaxing game to play with a nice bright art style as well. One of the areas we'd like to see some iteration on is the controls. Switching between the 2 different control methods for when the cat is in different states can feel a little jarring, so we'd like to see an attempt to try and unify that a bit more. And the UI can be a little confusing at times as well, so it'd be worth revisiting this too. But one last thing I wanted to share about this project was that one of the playtesters from Gobo who looked at this is a huge fan of puzzle games and he loved it, so you're definitely on the right track here. Moving on to Team 2, Somnium. We really liked the art style and the atmosphere. The use of color, more particularly the need to combine colors to fight enemies, really emphasizes the necessity for playing cooperatively. The sound of music also contributed nicely to the atmosphere. Around controls, we thought it might be nice to add just a touch of auto aim, and a few of us found pressing the right stick as an alternative method of changing color a bit frustrating, as this often happened accidentally in the heat of battle. It should be enough to just have this on the D-pad. Something else to keep in mind with a game like this is that accessibility is an increasingly big consideration in game design these days. And if you're going to make a game where your central mechanic is based around color, you need to give some careful thought as to how it can be played by people who have challenges like color blindness. So this is going to be increasingly important, in the industry going forwards. But there's a lot of potential in this game, so well done. Team 3 was Grimmetropolis. So there was some excitement among the playtesters here at Gobo to see that there was a tower defense game among the projects this year. One member of the production team actually contacted me directly to specifically request it, as she's a big fan of these type of games. So she's one of your fans here. Everybody liked the art style and thought everything was laid out in a very clear way, making it easy to understand what was going on and what they needed to do, including mechanics for gathering resources and building were welcome additions to the gameplay as well. We'd like to see some time invested in balancing the game a little bit more. It would often get to the point where the players get overwhelmed by the AI very quickly. And to get something like this right would require a lot of playtesting using different numbers of players and players of different abilities as well. Some of the playtesters here also felt that they were fighting against the controls a little bit at times. Now, this can be such an important but surprisingly difficult aspect of a game to get right, so it's well worth investing a little time on some iteration and polish in this area too. But overall, people had great fun playing this. Moving on to Team 4, Looking Grim. So this is proving to be a bit of a theme in our feedback this year, but again, we really like the art style. I think for people of my generation, it evoked a real sense of nostalgia, and it combined it well with really nicely thought out puzzles that made good use of that really clever central time shifting mechanic. There's a few things we'd like to see a little bit more polish on, like when you have multiple time points on the same screen, it can be easy to overshoot the one that you intended. And it's really great that you let people customize things like their controls, but your tutorials need to reflect those changes in game as well. But probably the biggest thing we'd like to see added is the ability to save your progress so you can reload it later. For this type of game, this feature is a bit of a must-have. But other than that, we'd just like to see how far you can push the puzzles using the time shift mechanic, because the ones already showcased in the game show a real strength in this area. Next, we've got Team 5, Seven Dwarfs Legends Untold. We really liked the character design in this game. Each had a unique look, and it was fun playing around with their different abilities. Now, the version of the game we had available, I think, was a little different to the one used for the demonstration today. And it actually changed something we quite liked, because in the version we had, the character art was all black and white, which we really liked, as it made the characters really sort of stand out against the colorful backgrounds and look really cool. The animations were great, and giving the player the option to switch characters mid-round is a bit different and a nice addition as well. And we like the music too, but it needs to be reined in a bit so that it doesn't obscure the other audio. The combat can get a little bit repetitive at times, so it would be good to add some more variety here. Maybe give the characters more abilities themselves. Would like to see some variety in the level design as well, although that, looking at your video or your playthrough today, it may be that you've actually got that, but in the version we had, it was the same level throughout, I believe. Also, having all the bad guys spawning at the beginning of each level meant that each level started hard and then got easier as you eliminated enemies. It would be worth exploring having the enemies on each level spawn in increasingly large waves. But at the end of the day, this is really fun couch co-op gameplay, and that's exactly what some gamers are looking for. Our UI designer actually captured a video of him and his son playing through it, and you'll be able to see how much they enjoyed it. I've shared the video with Bob, and he'll be able to pass it on to you. Team 6, lastly, Hansel and Gretel and the Magic of Color. So, big surprise, we love the art on this one as well. So I think we love the art on all of the games. But the pixel art sprites were big and bold with some really nice animation touches, such as when one of the characters die. Using the different colored lanterns to progress through the levels was well thought out as well, especially when you need the two different colors at the same time to progress. Would love to see this taken even further with more and more complicated puzzles. While you should obviously make sure that you ramp the difficulty of the game carefully, you also want to ensure you're giving your players a challenge. You know, we were thinking maybe the addition of something like enemy AIs, for example, could really add another layer to the gameplay. And of course, much like Team 2's game, using colors and color combinations as your central mechanic means you need to be aware of accessibility issues, especially with consideration to people who are colorblind. That said, catch co-op games are in relatively short supply these days, with most developers favoring online, but a game like this would be perfect for parents to play at home with their kids. You've got an ideal central mechanic here to tap into that potential market. So 6 games, all really well put together. This year, it's a really strong field. But as you know, we've been asked to, Gobo, we've been asked to select the jury winner. So to do this, as well as providing feedback, I also had all the playtesters give each game that they played a score out of 5, with the game with the highest average score being chosen as our overall winner. And it was close, which is a testament to the work you all put in and what you achieved. But ultimately, we had to choose one game, and I believe we have a video to announce the winner. So congratulations to Team 4 with their game Feline Grim. The art, the music, and the SFX all complement each other well and really help make this game atmospheric. There were other little details as well, from the crying idle animation to the fact it supports different resolutions and has customizable options for the audio, the music, the controls. These are the kind of things that you expect to see in release games. So having them here helped give Looking Grim a feeling of completeness. But it was the execution of the central mechanic and the puzzles you were able to construct around it that really won us over in the end. So congratulations again to Team 4 on a really well put together game. But also a big well done to all 6 teams. As I said before, this was a really strong group of games, and you should all be very proud of what you've achieved. And really all that remains for me to say is, on behalf of Studio Gobo, good luck to all of you with the next chapters of your careers. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Nick. That's really, really kind of you to give that feedback. I think it's great also for everyone watching to see that, you know, when you play a professional game that seems amazing and seems perfect, actually it's only amazing and perfect because it went through so many rounds of testing and criticism and improvement to get there. So hopefully today in our stream, you could see a little glimpse behind the curtain to how that process happens. So big thanks. Congratulations to Team 4 for the jury award. Fantastic job. And we have one more item of business to take care of. We've closed the voting. We've examined all the votes, and I'm ready to announce the winner of the audience award, which this year goes to Team 5, 7 Dwarves, Legends Untold. Congratulations. So super. Let me just say, you know, it's fantastic to have these awards. It adds a little flair to the course, but everyone, like as Nick said, all the games were fantastic this year. I think, you know, as being one of the course organizers, it's just amazing to me the quality you all can deliver in such a short amount of time in the 13 weeks of the semester. So let's give a big round of applause to all the teams. Fantastic job. Congratulations. Huge thank you to Violin, Fraser, Dominic, our TAs, also Fabio, who helped greatly with the course and has been managing the live stream behind the scenes for us today. It's gone very smoothly. Again, big thank you to Gobo. And also I just want to say, it's, you know, coming from ETH in Switzerland, we have a small but fantastic game community. So I want to say a big thank you to everyone in Switzerland and in Zurich who has, you know, welcomed us into the game community. It's really, really proud to be part of that. And finally, I just want to give my personal thanks to each and every one of the students this year who took the course. They, you know, you put a huge amount of time, and I appreciate the effort you made. You know, you make us look amazing because of your hard work, and I really just heartfelt thank you personally from me for everything you did for the course. That's all. So thanks a lot, and we will see you next year.